Hey, Thomas, how are you?
I'm good. Good, Mike.
Hey, yeah, sorry about the thing here. I've been tripping over my own feet here trying to get this thing to work. I've encountered an issue with some software that we were using called uh, called Streamlabs. And anyway, the idiot idiot issue after idiot issue after whatever. So here we are, recreating this a little bit. It's going to look a little different. We'll get a little bit polished here now that I've actually got on the OBS thing and going. But anyway, I'm Mike, and with me is my co-host Tom. And this week we're covering a very cool movie that I did not know existed until you shared it with me,
Mhm.
and whatnot. But before we get into that, I just wanted to jump into our channel here, do a little plugging. We are the first last of the Nerdom, and we were very happy and welcome our latest few subscribers over the last few months. Welcome to the Nerddom, or as Thomas coined the term for our community. Go ahead.
The Nerditos.
Yes, sir. You say it better than I do, 100%. But yeah, that's what we're taking to calling our fans. So tell us what you think about that, good or bad. If you're new here, we would appreciate it if you could like, comment, subscribe. If you disagree with us, that's fine too. And then, or if you have any recommendations for things that you want to see us cover, that'd be great. We also have a ever-growing back catalog of all cool kind of fun stuff that is just awesome to get into here.
Yeah,
And
and I'd like to thank everybody that's been watching our live video that we did of reacting to Dune's uh, trailer for Dune
yes.
2. It's been doing quite well. It's hit over 300 views.
Oh
and
wow. Oh wow.
yeah,
333. Holy cow. That's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
up there. That's
yeah. It's on track to
30.
match our biggest viewed video, if not surpass it, the way it's
Absolutely.
going. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the video that's got legs for us. So we appreciate everybody that's taken a look at that or looked at any of our videos and enjoyed them. And today we're talking about Under the Skin. It feels like I should be asking you for directions, but that could be a bad thing.
Yeah, no, no, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and of course, the audience will see that our thumbnail there is in the bottom right corner there. So we're going deep on this wonderful movie,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm gonna hide
Yeah, it
that
came
now.
out in 2013. It's a sci-fi horror movie that's based off of a novel by Michael Faber. I think it's the way you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
It's also I saw it back in 2014 when it came out on Blu-ray. I can't remember why I was turned on to the movie as far as why I was looking for it. Is probably some type of buzz online about it, and I really wanted to see it. But it's a A24 joint, which I didn't know what A24 was back in the day. This is when they first started putting out these interesting sci-fi slash horror movies, and they've only grown bigger and bigger. That distribution company. But yeah, so yeah, I suggested this. I knew that you loved sci-fi, so I figured it'd be kind of in your wheelhouse. But it's a little more arty than the biggest latest sci-fi movie. Like it's not gonna be the for the same audience as the newest Transformer movie.
No, you're right. Yeah. So yeah, my only knowledge coming into this one was Scarlett Johansson, obviously Black Widow, who was done wrong, done dirty by Disney with the Black Widow. That could have been so much more. But that's okay. All gripes aside. Yeah, this one I didn't know what to think of, and I honestly and when you send me things, I don't want to know more than I absolutely need to, for many reasons. And this I had no, and you didn't even mention it, but it was A24, like you just said. And then when I started seeing when I started playing, and it was A20, it was an A24 joint. I was very happy.
Hmm.
I don't know where to begin with this, but it's very, very interesting.
I would throw out there that the audience out there, if you haven't seen the movie, this is one of those that do really well going in blind. So,
Right.
uh, if
Good
you want
point
to
there.
stop the video, watch it. It's on. I was going to say HBO Max, but now it's just Max. It's currently on Max. So boot it up, take a look at it, and then come back and we could talk about it. Or if you don't mind a little bit, because we try to avoid spoilers, but the fact of us discussing the movie, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers. Obviously, we won't talk about the end of the movie, but we're going to talk about some of the plot points, which can be spoilers. So yeah, this is. I don't like watching trailers for movies because I feel like trailers kind of spoil maybe a little bit too much of a movie before going in. And this is one of those movies that where I didn't see any trailers, didn't see anything, just went in blind, and I think this movie benefits from that.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. And of course, I just pulled up the Just Watch there for the benefit of the show notes. Yeah, like Thomas was saying, it's very hard to get into this without revealing. Um, there's only like maybe three essential, maybe five essential ideas that are conveyed in this, and any one of them that we're going to trip over here tonight, it will be a spoiler. So just heads up, like Thomas said, if you get a chance. And again, we won't spoil the end, but there are certain things here that go on that is very and it's kind of in plain sight, I would say. It's kind
Hmm.
of like point blank obvious, like once you start watching the movie for more than 15 minutes, what's going on. Well, I'd say probably more like 30 or 40 minutes, to be honest. It takes a little bit to get going. Um, but it's right there in the title under the skin. I'll just leave it there, and then we might come back on that and circle the loop. But like
Hmm.
Thomas was saying, like it's kind of hard to talk about this without going into some detail because it's a very simple movie, and that's what I loved about it too. I
Hmm.
don't know about you, but I
Yeah.
it did kind of go a little bit longer in spots than I liked, but aside from that, it still wasn't like where it was like like where you were kind of strung out and you were like, okay, what's on my phone? It wasn't like that at all. It was more like
Right.
you just kind of
It
it, it
it would hold on to some shots for. I like slower paced movies. I know some people want kind of faster paced movies, but this like you said, it's a little. It kind of takes its time, and it doesn't. It's not like some of those movies from the '70s where they're just kind of dragging time just to add to the length time of the movie to make it however long it needs to be. There's a purpose to what they're doing and the pacing of it. But like Mike said, that if you're not used to that type of movie, it can be a little bit jarring for it to not go as fast as you want it to.
right.
Now I would a surprising comparison that I don't think our audience will expect, but this movie has a lot of inspiration in for how it was made from um, the from Jackass and the um, Sacha Baron Cohen movies. I forgot the guy's name. Um,
Oh God, Sasha,
his
starts with a B.
character.
Borat. Yeah, Borat.
Borat, yeah, it
Yeah,
has
yeah,
it
yeah.
has, has a lot to do with those movies because it's filmed with hidden cameras in under the skin, and there's the character Scarlett Johansson. The actress learned to drive this sort of little minibus, and it has all these hidden cameras around it, and she would interact with actual people in Scotland. It's filmed in Scotland. On the street, she would ask them for directions and kind of have a dialogue with them. And then afterwards, the movie people go, "Hey, would you like to be in this movie with Scarlett Johansson?"
Really, really.
Yeah,
That's how they filmed it.
A lot of it, yeah.
That's
Some of it
I
had
didn't know
real
that.
actors in it, but a lot of them
Wow.
were non-professionals that were just added in on the fly. And then there's a scene where Scarlett Johansson's character falls on the sidewalk, and I guess some people saw that it was Scarlett Johansson and took a picture of her falling, and it became like a big meme back in the day of Scarlett falling. No one knew that they were actually filming a movie; that they just thought she was out on the street and fell over, but because it was all done with hidden cameras. And
Wow.
yeah, that the whole there's a dance scene in it, and that's in a dance club with hidden cameras. All of them are non actors. They were there just to dance that night, and Scarlett was there, and they said that they had to. It was really cool because they had to do it in a way that people wouldn't know that Scarlett was there because that would
Right.
cause a big scene,
Oh yeah.
but also get that reaction because they were like, well, yeah, how many movies do you see in a dance scene and it's so painfully obvious that maybe they're not dancing to any sound because you
Right.
can't have sound when you're filming, and how painfully obviously it's a film dance, club, and so this has that feeling of authenticity of it, and you get those real reactions and everything, and that kind of adds to the charm of the movie, and also the realism, and it kind of reflects back on the fact that the Scarlett Johansson character is sort of out of place
Right. Oh,
in
100%.
in the real world. And the fact that it's the real world
Right.
is makes it that much more interesting. It's one of those movies that benefits from going back and watching it again, because in the second my second watch through was this time around, and I appreciated everything that they put in there to kind of tell you what was going on. Yeah, it's almost like it's a it's a simple mystery, but there's a mystery there as far as what's actually going on,
Right.
and to see those clues and those breadcrumbs that they put in into the movie is kind of fun to go back and watch and spot along the way.
That's funny that you say that about how they filmed it because you really do get a scene of the location, Scotland.
Hmm.
And you like
Yeah.
what you sometimes like, and I pride myself on being able to like hear English through accents. And I know you
Yeah.
do too,
You're
because
right.
we when we worked together, we had to deal with all kinds of types, as it were, to get something done or be on the phone or whatever. But I I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I had to rewind a couple times because the 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 brogue was so thick.
Hmm. Oh
It
yeah.
was hard to be like, well,
There's the scene with that bus driver. That was just that
oh
guy
God,
was.
I
Oh.
couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't understand him. I couldn't. I mean, I get the gist of what he was saying. He was, kind of
Right.
scolding parent, kind of like, "You need a
Yeah.
coat," basically, is what he said,
Right.
essentially. But it kind of like, huh? But yeah, that makes sense because these I guess oh wow, that brings another an extra cold layer to it, really.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
just
And
it
yeah.
was very cold. It felt very cold throughout the entire thing, for obvious reasons, for the subject, her her character, and what she is, and
Yep.
what the world is, and how, pardon my language, how friggin' cold, in not just temperature, but how
Yeah.
people are like,
Right.
um, it's so strange because there are so many times where, how can I say this without spoiling too much? Like, okay,
I think we're at the point of
yeah,
spoilers. If people
yeah,
are still with us, they're okay with them.
yeah, and this kind of get into it a little bit, but there's a part there like where one side plays a predator and then one side plays the victim. Kind of like they kind of trade spots there a little bit. And it's funny because as her character is learning about the world and humanity and these people, for sinister, you're not even there's not even really a motive there for like sinisterness. It's just kind of like it's
She's there to do a job.
right. Yes, very clinical.
She's yeah, and she's basically an alien. We don't know from where,
Right.
from when.
Don't spend any time on it. They
We
just jump in.
there is there's no there's no real backstory.
Right. Which is
It's very like
perfect.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So she's an alien. She's driving around in a van, and she's collecting men to be absorbed into her black floor.
Right.
And evidently they're being
Void.
processed and sent off somewhere
Right.
for, I guess, the consumption of other aliens. But she's there to do a job, and she's there to look pretty, be attractive to the male
Mm-hmm.
gaze.
Bait.
But she's not. She doesn't feel it. She could turn it off and on. She could be real flirty and whatnot. But that's not her. As soon as she doesn't have to be that way, she just goes to blank slate again.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
so
good
yeah,
way to.
yeah, and they were going to there is a book, but it's based very loosely off of it.
Okay.
The writer director said that he didn't want to film the book, but the book needed to be a film. But he wanted the book to be a film,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting way of putting it. But he's worked on this movie for 10 years. It's been in development in one way or another for 10 years. And his original idea was for it to be a big special effects laden science fiction movie with a male and female alien character.
Mm-hmm.
And he had ideas of maybe Brad Pitt being the male alien, and I forget who he wanted for the female. But yeah, so it was going to be this big production. It didn't really get off the ground in that form. So he started stripping away the layers. He said, "Well, what if we just focused on the female character? Let's cut out all the scenes with the male character. Let's cut out all the big special effects scenes of it." And he said it was sort of like taking a rock band and stripping it down to PJ Harvey.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a big rock band to a kind of an indie rock singer. So yeah, but it's kind of interesting in that, having spent that much time on a project, to be able to manipulate it, to know it so well that you could strip it down to its fundamentals, and still have you have this solid movie there, um, and you could lay those extra layers upon it, but you run the risk of losing that laser focus of Scarlett Johansson's character, because you're in her head the whole movie. You're straight with her, and it tells this full narrative, even though there's not a lot of dialogue on it. Normally, I like to begin our podcast with a line from the movie.
Right.
There's not really a line from a movie to deliver here. Um, but her story arc, and then she's also has sort of a mentor, or a guy that oversees her, that's on a motorcycle,
Yeah.
and he's obviously the bad guy. And he's sort of, and the beginning of the movie, the director was originally going to have the production of her as the alien being put together,
Mm.
and he stripped that down to uh, assembling her eye. Um, and it's hard to kind of even grasp that when you first see the movie, because
Yeah. It
you
was
really don't know what's going on.
no.
Uh,
No,
but
you don't.
but on the rewatch, I go, oh wow, they're putting together her eye, and then you hear this Scarlett Johansson doing repetition with words and stuff, and that was the recording of her learning to speak in an English accent, and that
Huh.
was sort of a symbolizing her learning the language, and so that repetition of the language is her learning it. So that whole scene there in the beginning is basically kind of a distilled version of assembling her as this this being.
That's funny. That makes sense because she plays a part like she as you're kind of going through everything that she builds this character up as you watch her progress essentially.
Hmm.
So she goes from this very clinical, very detached to
Hmm.
slowly bringing things in closer and closer and closer until she even to the point of like where they trade spaces. And I thought the one thing that I thought was very interesting was when they were on the beach and there was the one dude from the Czech
Hmm.
Republic or whatever with and there's the baby and whatever. It's just so funny how things were traded off, like as her character progression goes forward,
Hmm.
she she tries a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but for the most part though she's still how to put it, she's like she's learning about humanity in a way,
Yeah.
and um, like you were saying, like she'll turn it on and she'll turn it off.
Hmm.
So like, but those are more like functions of like of her mission, I guess. Her
Hmm.
initial mission, which is to capture specimens, dump them in the
Hmm.
void, or and then move on to the next one, rotate on through. And as
Yeah.
she's progressing through this, she even gets to like this one guy, and I thought it was very interesting her interaction with the disfigured man,
Mm.
because like that I think that's like where you start to kind of see her humanity come out,
Mm. Yeah,
and
and that guy that's disfigured, he's really disfigured. Those He has this form of I guess where tumors form on the face. So that's he's really like that, and he was cast for that in that role. They wanted someone with a deformity um, that was comfortable on camera, and he had done some camera work. I guess he did like ads or something, so he was used to
okay.
being on film. So and when you see the movie, he gives it all in the for that role. I mean, he's very open. So that's very appreciative of him being able to share all that. But
he,
yeah,
he was natural, yeah.
yeah, and they said that when they um, a lot of the movies improv as well, and when they were doing an interview with him for the role, they kind of said, okay, let's kind of improv the lines. So there's a scene of when she picks him up in her van and they're talking. That whole scene was already improv in the interview, so that he would be comfortable saying those lines because he'd already kind of came up with those lines himself as they were talking, as they were doing the improv.
Yeah, that very interesting. Like I was gonna say that I wanted it to oh, that's what it was. So like I was saying, she trades places with her victims at one point.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna go into that too much, but
Hmm.
everybody takes a turn at the everybody gets gets a turn at the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
But and in the baby scene too, in that beach scene, also it showed um one it showed twice. Once with her and her interaction on the beach with that scene, and then
Hmm.
the bad man later, um, straight up humanity and alienation. I mean,
Hmm.
that is
Yeah.
that if you could put a parentheses around the bad man and the baby and just leave it there,
Hmm.
it really it plays off of it very very well. So
Yeah.
that tells me that they didn't go with the first draft. This was like honed to perfection. So it looks like it, from the
Yeah.
standpoint of it.
Yeah, yeah, and the one thing about this movie is everything is authentic. Like all the actors are non-actors, so they're very real in their roles, except for Scarlett Johansson. Obviously, she's a, uh, but but she's but it's authentic in that she's kind of um, not acting in the way that um, in movies she has to be really expressive. In this movie, she's turning everything off She's really like the like I was saying earlier, the blank slate, the tabula rasa. She's letting everything soak up. She's the observer, much like us. So we're seeing the world through alien eyes. So we're being very open with her, and very, very unjudgmental as far as everything. We're just kind of soaking up this alien world, um, while she is. And like you said, the bad guy, he's they wanted a. It was very important for the director to get a guy that could ride a motorcycle, not necessarily an actor. So so yeah, he goes, in casting, he said, give me someone who can do, drive a motorcycle, even do motorcycle stunts. And for a while there, they'd heard this guy that performed all these illegal motorcycle stunts in Sweden called the Ghost Rider, and they were actually able to get like a Skype call with the guy and talk to him. But then he just disappeared, so they weren't able to get him for the role. But they got this other guy that's a professional motorcyclist. I forget his name. He's probably listed down there in the thing there. But yeah, he's a professional motorcycle rider.
Yeah, I believe.
And yeah, the bad man,
Yeah,
Jeremy
yeah,
McWilliams.
Jeremy McWilliams. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who I was just
Yeah,
on. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Just a comment real quick on the motorcycle. That dude knows how to ride, for
yeah,
sure. Cause like,
yeah.
there's a scene like where he's like the you kind of understand his role to be an enforcer, or like he's like the arms and legs
Mhm.
for her essentially, and they're
Yeah,
they're
he's
like a
he's
team.
there to ensure everything runs smoothly.
Right, right, yeah. He's like yeah, exactly. But like he rolled up on the house and parked the bike. That friggin' he did that perfect. I'm very curious to see how many takes that is. Of course, that's gonna be so obscure. Nobody's gonna comment on that unless you're really lucky with the extras on a DVD, or listen to me, DVD, physical media. Yeah, he did a great job, and he like I think it's funny because you wear a motorcycle suit, and it adds as the movie goes on. It actually adds to it more than it
Mhm.
subtracts from it. You kind of see this as kind of like a suit, like
Mhm.
like a menacing kind of suit.
Yeah,
And you don't kind of get like a bad vibe from him until, well, you do get that vibe not too far away, but you
right.
definitely get this vibe, like the beach, the thing that I
Yeah,
was talking about earlier, like where it's that stark contrast between humanity and alienation. And I mean literally, and that's carried through. Alienation and humanity are equally woven through every scene of this
yeah.
movie, in my opinion, because you see it through her eyes, like you were saying, you touched on, like where she is just like she's kind of turning the corner and figuring out what it is. She's a blank slate, like you were saying, and she absorbs more like how she interacts with people. But it's very awkward. It's
Mhm.
very artistic, I
Very,
guess,
yeah,
but not overly. It's like that's why this movie is a little bit slower paced than anything, because you have to let that kind of scene naturally build
yep,
to like where
yep,
she's like she tries a piece of food, and then she has
right,
this very visceral reaction to it, and like everybody around her is staring, and you feel like you're
yeah,
like, oh god.
yeah. Yeah, and the fun thing about going back and knowing that it's all hidden camera stuff, the people are reacting because Scarlett Johansson's in this diner spitting up
So funny,
cake, and
so funny.
it's all real reactions. But yeah, and if you're an alien and you just get down to Earth, and
Mhm.
you hear people talking about their favorite thing to eat is cake, and then so you go, okay, well, I want to be experience this human experience. I'll eat cake, and your body's just not made. You're an alien. It's not going to work right, and you're going to end up spitting it out. But yeah, it's yeah, and evidently there must be an element of certain aliens that go rogue, and also the Badman character, Jeremy, is there to make sure no one goes rogue. There's a scene towards the middle of the movie where they're in the black room, the room where I guess they incorporate their victims. She's just got through with getting one of the victims, and the motorcycle guy, the bad guy's there, and he's staring into her eyes, looking, and I guess he's looking for any kind of deviation that maybe she's
Huh.
going rogue. And you're when you first see that, it's just kind of an odd scene the first time you see it, but on second viewing, the fact that we know that she eventually goes rogue, that's what he's doing. He's gauging her, seeing if
Huh.
there's any deviation from the baseline. Um,
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for that too, to kind of
mhm,
really pick this and get into it. The other thing I would say too that this movie's about, equally just like Humanity and Alienation, is appearance, and a little bit on identity, but more on appearance because obviously it's in the title of the movie, and we can get into that. But I had a question for you. So there's a scene like where so like they have like a hangout or like a spot or base, whatever you want to call it, that is like kind of hidden into this building. But as you kind of come in and go out, there's also like a mirror. And there was
uh-huh,
two scenes where they prominently displayed that, like where it was Johansson's character looking in the mirror, and you kind of understand why, because that's kind of
mhm,
like her awareness of humanity is arising,
mhm,
or on the rise. And then you
mhm,
see the bad man. He
mhm.
does the same thing, but it's so different between the two. What was your, if you recall, what was your impression of those two scenes and that mirror? What do you think that? What do you think that? What did that mean to you? I guess I'm just curious.
Well, it's I think with her, I think the kind of the trigger for her, because she ends up letting the deformed man go,
Right,
and that's sort of like her turning point. That's
right.
her switch. And the moment before she does that is she looks in the mirror, and I guess there's a lot going on there. It's like and there's a question there. Is she seeing the fact that she was able, that her face is an artifice, but it's a thing of beauty, and that was constructed, and he's kind of saddled with this deformed face,
Hmm.
that he's born with, and maybe she's thinking about what's underneath the skin, that she's not the beautiful thing that she's projecting, so that she decides that she has this simpatico with him, the fact that she's in a world that would not accept her as well, and so she has that connection with him, and that brings her um, wanting to maybe connect with humanity. And then, but as far as the bad man, um, it's almost like he kind of triggers into what might have set her off. Is like he sees that mirror, and and you don't notice it in the or I didn't when I first watched it, but in that scene, um, you when she's victimizing the four man, and takes him into the black room. There's in a corner. There's an alien that's observing.
Oh, I
Um,
did
the
not see that. Damn it. Now I'm
um,
gonna have to go
so,
back and watch this damn movie again.
so and it's very they're
So
kind
was
of
it like
odd
a really
looking.
small kind of shape, like a half a height of a human, or something like that?
Well, to get a little spoilery, the aliens are these kind of black, kind of nondescript looking things.
Right.
So it's up against a black wall. so
Okay, yeah, I did not
so
see that. Never mind.
unless you're looking for it, but
Yeah,
there's
I
a
didn't.
shot of it. So that's the thing that Saul that she let the guy go. So I'm sure that alien notified the bad guy. The bad guy, it rushes over, and so he's on his way out to chase after them. But he looks in the mirror, and I think he's going, maybe he's kind of getting into her head to see what kind of not psychically linked or anything, but he's kind of much like a detective, seeing clues. He sees that, and he kind of intuits what may have happened in her head to maybe trigger it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
Because
makes sense.
maybe because like I said, there's that sense that others have gone rogue. In that one scene where he's looking into her eyes to see if
Mm,
there's any changes, I
defects.
think, yeah. So there may have been others, and when they maybe once they've been reassembled back, they know what signs there are to look for, and so maybe the fact that they're seeing their reflection can cause maybe that offset. So which also questions why you would have a mirror there anyway. That might trigger alien. But yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's fun that they've stripped everything down to the essentials, but then don't tell you them.
mhm.
So everything's there that you kind of have to piece it together, and it's not like a lot of other art house movies that are very obscure um, that the meanings not as hard to kind of assemble. It's all there, and it's very clear, but yeah, it's in the fun is sort of piecing it all together because it is all there.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was gonna say too. Well, I mean, we're already kind of already into it, but Under the Skin is a very apropos name for this.
Mhm.
I don't think that you could have
Mhm.
picked a better title for it. And I would be
Yeah,
curious to go back and read the book if it's out
yeah,
published,
yeah.
because
I've got it
I
on
hear about
my
these
kin.
ridiculous
Yeah, I've
shots.
got it on my Kindle. I just haven't read it yet. I just know
Right.
that it's very much different from. I think it's more straightforward
Right.
than the movie.
Oop,
Well, there's that guy a
yep.
little. Yeah, you do see a lot of
A little
Scarlett
cheeky.
Johansson. Yeah, you do see a lot of her as well as some of the other actors.
It's bare.
Um,
It is bare. It is a full
uh,
frontal
yeah,
bare. I mean, from a distance, it's not anything gratuitous. It's very much
yeah,
arty. So there's that too.
and
It's for effect.
yeah, and it's very much an alien, looking at an alien body. Oh, and that character right there, the guy guy, that Forrester guy,
Hmm.
he's not an actor either. They said that there were he owned one of the locations that they were going to shoot at,
Hmm.
and they asked him, "Hey, would you like to act in the movie as well?" And once you see the movie and see the scene that he's actually in and how intense it is, to know that that's not a real actor, that's just an everyday Joe that owns property, it really adds to the scene. I think David Lynch is very much all about getting non-actors doing roles, but I think the art of doing that is finding the right people for the right roles so that they don't have to act, and so
Right.
they're just being themselves. And also the fact that they're doing hidden camera stuff, and the fact that a lot of them are stripping down to their bare essentials. Having the hidden camera makes them more comfortable. You don't have this huge camera
Right.
focusing in on your naked body.
Some big old scene and lights and people and
Yeah,
making even more
yeah,
to
yeah.
borrow from a phrase of what I said. I could imagine it would be very alienating. That is not akin to like growing up
Mhm,
and having to go to the locker room and change for a gym
mhm,
class or something. Like that. We've
yeah,
always had that first time little bit of, oh God, you're in front of people, that sort of thing. But it
mhm.
just adds to the ambiance of the movie.
Right.
And I mean everything around it. It's just very good. I
Yep.
need to see it again. I can see like where, and I don't think that you could. I think this movie. I think as time goes on, it'll become more beloved. Honestly, I think it already has that kind of
Yeah.
feel to it. from other movies that we've kind of felt it, those kind of movies have like a second layer of cool. And I don't think that you could get this kind of movie with the way it is. I don't know that you would have that unique combination of actress of Scarlett Johansson. Uh, I mean, she certainly wasn't a nobody back then. You know, I think she was
Right.
more on the rise. But the
Yeah.
fact that this just is just impressive to me for
Hmm.
her um,
Yeah.
acting ability for sure. Like it
Yeah.
just her she's just friggin' dynamite throughout. Like she makes the movie essentially. Like
Right. Yeah.
and
Without her, it would fall flat.
no,
Yeah.
there's no way that you could get. I don't know. I just don't see that this would work any other kind of way than how it was, because it's just so visceral. Like
Yeah. It
um,
it shows you what science fiction can do.
right.
It doesn't have to be big ideas. Well, this does kind of have big ideas, but it distills them down to the most human elements.
It
So human that some of them are alien.
it doesn't take the standard sci-fi tropes of humanity's afraid of the unknown and all that crap, you know, that we've seen a million friggin' times recycled over and over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not digging in on that, but this one actually is very original in how it does it. Even to the point to like where society and how it obviously with the disfigured man, obviously with her and her interactions based on what she is or what she appears to be, and
Yep.
like what the victim sees. You know, it plays on that and it kind of shows like how very much, even in humanity, how very much a part. If you don't fit in, you're like the island of misfit toys. You are rejected summarily, and that that's not original thought here. This movie dives in and out of like like it's oxygen,
Yeah.
like
And
over and over and over again. Yeah.
there's a symmetry too. I like that. Okay, the beginning of the movie is the creation of her
Okay. I see
as
where
her
you're going.
character, her alien.
Right.
She's the victimizer. She has her prey, and I like how they twisted on its head. They could have naturally had a male alien victimizing women. That's something familiar to us. We've seen that 1,000 times in 1,000
That's
horror movies,
true. It kind
and
of turns it around.
yeah, it turns it on its head and makes the men the victims. And it kind of plays with the idea of how men can kind of walk through the world with this kind of false sense of safety, whereas
Security. Yeah.
women,
It's
yeah,
true.
women don't have that. So it's kind of playing around with that. So she starts off as the victimizer. It slowly goes. It kind of flips around. I won't go into
Right.
detail, but it kind of totally flips around and does the opposite on the opposite of the end of the movie, uh, even up to the point of the very beginning. It kind of flips it over, and once you see it fully laid out, it's kind of beautiful in symmetry and what it's trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, and there is a lot of times like where they'll just like let the sound keep playing and in a
Hmm.
scene or whatever, the ambiance of the environment or whatever, so you get that over and over and over again. And nature is predominantly shown throughout this and that. The only thing that it didn't show in nature were like really any kind of like natural fauna or flora or whatever, animals, whatever.
Yeah.
But humanity, they didn't really need to because they showed you like how much humanity, I guess, in this Alien too is are animals themselves. But but it's just kind of funny how they use the excuse me, the image on the screen that I have up there is just is one such scene like where there's a lot of this where you're kind of taking it all in a scene or the cinematography is very it's not quite as polished as like like other things, but it doesn't need to be because it has its own kind of these shots. Every friggin' scene in this movie has some kind of level of uncomfortableness to it, some kind of like like you put on your favorite shirt and you got a sunburn or something and you're itchy or whatever, you're just not quite, it just doesn't quite, it fits, but it's not quite there. It leaves you a little bit uneasy
Yep.
as she progresses through the
Right.
thing. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
trying to,
and that's what real life is.
right.
We don't have these polished conversations. Of course, uh, me and Mike on our podcast try to make it as polished as possible. But yeah, on just regular conversations with your neighbor or whatnot, it's going to be kind of awkward sometimes, and that's sort of the charm and the beauty of this movie is that it's not polished. And one of the things, as far as the construction of the movie, I have the Blu-ray and it has like a 40-minute behind the scenes, and a lot of those behind the scenes things now on Blu-rays is everybody patting each other on the back. Hey, we did such a great job, and talk about how great everybody is as an actor because they don't really have much to talk about as far as the construction of the movie. But the way this movie was constructed, I would have loved even a 3 hour documentary on everything because I
Hmm.
still had so many more questions about how everything was done even after watching it. But the every element was the director would requested everybody to kind of improvise. Even like say the person doing the soundtrack, she did it almost solely on the keyboard, and they also layered in these weird. The one guy, the sound guy said kind of brown noises, these kind of odd noises that were kind of flat that just kind of worked with the movie. And she would do like these string instruments on the keyboards. So they, you know, strings are very natural sounding, but done through a keyboard have a kind of a unnatural sound because there are certain chords that you would have to finish naturally, whereas on a keyboard you could keep them going, and she would do that to kind of give that unnatural feel to it. And also, since they did it on hidden cameras, especially a lot of those scenes in the van, you had I think 4 or 5 cameras uh, recording at all times, so you had endless footage from all four. So when the editor had to go through, he he didn't have these two shots to deal with. He had 4 or 5
Really?
continuous shots, and they would film, like I said, her just driving around in a van talking to people. So at the end of it, um, he had I think I think he said like 300 hours worth of footage
Oh,
that they had gone through, him and the director. And at the end of going through everything, yeah, the editor at that point was, he goes, yeah, I told him, I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
right,
and
right,
the
right.
and the director put his arm around the guy and he said, least at this point we know the movie. And he goes, yeah, at that point we knew every scene, we knew it, so we just had to assemble it. And he said when they started assembling it, it felt like it didn't feel like a movie. It was just a whole bunch of little vignettes or various scenes. The art was trying to put it together to actually make it a movie, and just kind of thinking about how they filmed it, and that does sound like a very very challenging task of actually putting it all together. Although the writer director Jonathan Glazer, like I say, he's been with this project for 10 years, so I think he probably lived and breathed it for so long that it may have been kind of second nature for him to kind of put it together. But yeah, it just kind of tells you, just shows you how you can actually do a movie can benefit from a director taking his time and not kind of slapping something together over a few months periods of time. And in those big huge blockbuster movies, you have everybody and their uncle putting their 2 cents in with how to assemble it, what to do. You have all these varying ideas, Whereas this movie's very much stripped down, and it's very much the vision of the director. And unfortunately, I haven't seen any of his other movies. I've heard very good things about Sexy Beast. I would like to maybe see that at one point,
I
especially
think
after seeing this movie.
absolutely, yeah. Where this Jonathan Glazer, it makes you want to experience more.
Mhm.
And I would love to check more out. Like
Yeah, I don't
that's
think he has very many movies, but that makes
mm,
sense that he.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, I've heard.
he's got a few.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got a list of them, but yeah, I've heard good things about Sexy Beast. He does a lot of music videos too. It looks like.
That's funny. Massive Attack. Holy cow, that's coming back. Good
Yeah,
grief, that's
me
taking it back.
too.
Radiohead too, yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense. The dude knows how to create ambiance, and those are two
yeah.
bands that definitely create
Hmm.
ambiance. If you know anything about Massive Attack, that is definitely true about them for
Yeah,
sure. Radiohead,
yeah.
probably more people know
Oh,
who they are.
looks like he came out with a movie this year, The Zone of Interest.
Well,
So
we're gonna have to put that on the short list. I think that and Sexy Beast and the other one that I saw.
yeah.
Oh wow, interesting, interesting. Oh, I don't want to get too far too far afield, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
we can
Absolutely.
navel gaze later. But yeah, I this one, if you don't know what to watch and you want to be surprised and you have a modicum of patience, this one is it. This is one that I would say that you would want to watch on a weeknight, not a weekend night, because I say that because why do I say that? I say that because um, it's going to get you thinking, and you kind of want it slammed in there with with your normal day to day. I think, like whereas if you see it on the weekend, you're going to have a little bit more free flowing, and you might get a little bit more of that. But this one is a catch for sure. Under the
Yeah.
skin. Um, I it, I saw the runtime, and it in some ways it felt longer, but in some ways, like when you roll up to the very end, you're kind of that's it, and you're
Yep.
like, damn.
Yeah. And it has kind of a dreamlike quality to it. Even the movie
Funny.
poster they talked to the guy who made the movie poster in the documentary as well, and he said that um, yeah, he said it was sort of he had the laser focus on Scarlett Johansson's face, and that was all of the posters kind of had that kind of theme with it and kind of variations, and I guess he had a bunch of those concept ideas all over his studio and whatnot, and I guess there's several different people he works with, and his wife made the comment. I guess those are pretty good because no one's drawn a dick on any of them yet. I guess that's the level of quality if no one's disgraced your image with a dick on it yet,
That's
scribbled on it, and then it's probably pretty good.
that's funny. Yeah, the fact that there's like this dance between concepts that we kind of touched on, like not even the fear of the unknown or whatever, just like just being different.
Yeah.
You don't really get like a sketched out X Files kind of vibe from it, which is
Uh-huh.
weird. In and of it, so it's a whole different feeling than you would ever get with a normal sci-fi movie.
Uh-huh.
And yet again, this is like one where you can arguably say sci-fi and horror when they're really well done together.
Hmm.
You can't really separate one from the other, really.
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
you couldn't take this out and just make it a pure horror movie because you'd lose orientation, and you also likewise you couldn't just do it as a sci-fi either because it would be very boring. But when you combine the two, again, it knows how to marry two concepts that are completely opposite of the other. Whatever you want to take, whether you want to take it, humanity and alien, or just humanity itself, the spirit of humanity, and 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 that. in the spirit of unhuman,
Yeah,
ill human, I get, or
and
alienation, another way to put it.
and also the idea of science fiction and technology. This takes advantage of the evolution of film, filmmaking, and technology. Because even at that time, um, you know, before then, they to make those very small cameras and have the quality that you see on the screen was impossible. A couple of years before then. So it was like the perfect time to be able to make the movie
Mm.
with the technology that they have. In fact, in that van, one of the reasons why they had the van was that they had the camera operators in the back of the van, and
Oh,
so it was all kind of a mobile mobile film studio there. So again, when they're driving around, all you see is the van, Scarlett Johansson in the van, and and that maybe you do see some scenes where she's driving through crowds and people are you're seeing these kind of odd reactions from the people out in the crowd. It's probably them going, what's Scarlett Johansson driving around in a van for? But yeah, and then it's also building upon the ideas that Borat and Jackass has done with the hidden camera thing, and elevating it. They elevated it from the candid camera kind of stuff, and elevate it in the direction of humor and how you could refine it that way. Um, and then this movie takes it into a horror sci-fi direction and tells a serious drama with hidden cameras, and that's crazy that they were able to pull off a quality movie like this, doing it like that,
yeah.
because there's a huge risk at what you're doing there, but a huge benefit and reward in pulling it off.
Yeah, this that goes back to the quality and the fact that A24 made it. Um,
Yeah.
and it actually makes me want to go back and watch X and then Men, which we covered. Shout out to our other
Yep.
show, just because of that. There's just a certain kind of feel with these movies
Hmm.
that works very well. And I think there's another one. I'm not sure on that, so I won't mention it. But
Yeah, when
um,
I was kind of lazy and watched it on Max. I have it on Blu-ray as well, but I
mm,
watched it on Max, and after I watched it on Max, the Max said, "Hey, you might like Ex Machina." I was like, "I already do, Max. I already do."
very true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
But
funny. Yeah,
I wish it had the Blu-ray had a commentary. I pulled out the Blu-ray to watch the extras,
didn't
but
have
yeah,
it.
it's yeah no just
Mm.
but like I said, the documentary is great. I would have loved, like I said, a 3 hour documentary on the whole thing would have been
Oh yeah.
great too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
but
And just like you point out, like horror movies perennially get underrated. This is not a 6.3 at all.
no,
This is more
no,
like a 7.5, maybe 8.
I'd say 8,
Yeah.
8.5. But yeah, I think unfortunately, I think the reason why it got made is because Scarlett Johansson's in it. That funded the movie, but it also kind of detracts as far as the rating, because people go, "Oh, it's Scarlett Johansson, watch it," get confused, don't know what they're
Oh,
watching, and then they downrate it.
that's a shame. And that might play into being associated with Disney and Marvel. You just kind of like there are certain actors that have said no to doing anything with them because they didn't want to get into that pit of whatever. So maybe that plays against her. That's a little
Yeah, and the whole time thing is like seeing that the movie came out in 2013. It's a 10-year-old movie. It's like it feels like it only came out a couple of years ago, and you know, but that's just because I guess I'm old. But
yeah. No, it's good. Like I said, it's going to hold up very very well, and that's
Mhm.
because of how they filmed it, and how they did it, and the quality that everything is like painstakingly done. Like
Yeah,
it's just the detail to the effects are awesome. And I would
yeah,
be
and
very
it's
curious about that.
oh yeah, and, they said that the director wanted everything very practical, and they even in that room that where they kind of ingest the the prey.
The
It's a
void.
black room. Yeah, the void. There, it's a black room that she lures her prey into, and they start walking, and they start sinking into the ground, and through what look like liquid,
But
and
they don't
that's
know it. Right.
right, exactly. They're kind of charmed by her. They're in her on her in her spell or whatnot. But yeah, they constructed this whole room with this black kind of matte glass on it, and they had a section of it that had that that had this kind of this liquid, black liquid stuff in it, and they rigged it up with bladders and whatnot, so whenever they would walk down into it, it wouldn't bubble up and bubble over.
Mm,
So yeah, it was that was all practical. It was kind of crazy to think about that it's not CGI. There's very few things that are CGI in this, and you could probably kind of guess. But yeah, the special effects guy said that the digital stuff was maybe 3 seconds here, 4 seconds there.
mm.
There's a scene at the end that you'll see that is digital, but there's I think just the head part is digital, but
Very
with the
good.
two heads
Very good
are
quality.
digital. But yeah, and it's very well done. So yeah, I think uh, the special effects guys knew that they didn't have like a Marvel movie where they're doing 2,000 special effects. They're only doing a small number of them, so they could do them extremely well. They could spend their time and really focus in and hone. And that says something also for what you could do with quality when you're not being overworked, and that you could actually perfect something.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. This works marvelously for this movie. It can't. This is one you got to go see, and more importantly, it's one you can go see. You don't have to. It's not hard to reach for.
Right, right.
Which is nice.
Yeah, and there's another thing about the time is that it's kind of timeless in that it takes advantage of all the technology of the time to make it, but it's kind of a timeless movie. I don't remember seeing anyone with the cell phone in the movie. I don't, but yeah, there's like sort of like this sort of kind of trapped in time, sort of out of time kind of feel to the movie. It's hard to say exactly when it takes place, and I think that kind of takes advantage of where it's filmed in Scotland. There's sort of a timeless feel to Scotland as well. As an outsider looking in, there's kind of a timeless feel to Scotland with all of its old buildings and kind of cobblestones and whatnot.
And the people
There's
too.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, the people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I did enjoy it very much. Like it was it's not the fastest paced movie, but it doesn't need to be for what it is. And this is like one that you don't want to rush through either.
Right.
That's why I
Yes.
say. But yeah,
So enthusiastic thumbs up for us.
absolutely. Yep. 100%. Yep. This one, I was going to try to tease out any other thing here while we come up to the thing. I think we're coming
Yep.
up to the end of the show here,
Yep.
to what we have to say. But great film. We're again add it to the back catalog.
Hmm.
This does remind me of a few kind of movies that do this well. One you just mentioned, like kind of like where there's a trading places, and a little bit more of centralized on a few characters instead of just this, but along those lines. But
Yep.
yeah, I
And
was
yeah, you nerditos out there, if you have your favorite sci-fi horror movie you want to recommend to us to maybe view, I know I've seen a lot of obscure and weird sci-fi horror stuff, and Mike has seen a lot of just regular sci-fi and sci-fi stuff. So yeah, if you want to challenge us, try to find something neither of us have seen, give us a challenge there, and give us a recommend. And like Mike said at the top of the show, give us a like, subscribe if you've enjoyed this. If you didn't, let us know why in our comments. If
yeah,
you did, comment us as well. We've got a huge catalog of stuff to watch, so kind of go through there, and if you haven't seen everything of ours, there's probably something else that you might be interested in. And we try not to get too spoilery. We apologize on this one. We did go a little bit into it on this one, but
Not too
yeah,
bad though.
yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I think you could still watch it and get a lot out of it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
one of those movies that even if everything was spoiled in it, it would still be fascinating to watch. Just by the fact that the journey of it is even more exciting than the knowing by the numbers what's going on in it.
Yeah, it works better when you don't, when you land blind like that.
Hmm.
And just kind of going back to like the fact that it's science fiction. Um,
Hmm.
Science fiction is an amazing vehicle when it's done right, where you can take a
Hmm.
completely different story. And there's many. You were talking about obscure, weird ones. I have seen a handful of those on the sci-fi side.
Yeah.
Like ones that are like where they're really out there. But again, I think this is the beauty of sci-fi. Like you can find yourself in any era, to today's modern era, or a few years back or a few decades back, and you can see certain. You can suss out different statements with certain films, but you're not being told that you're not being hit over the head with it. It's up to you, the what you bring to the table, and what you see in there that makes it the best message of all, if you get any from it. But there's so many here to dive into. We would just scratch the surface. But
Yeah.
yeah, like Thomas was saying, I've been Mike.
And I'm Thomas.